It's super annoying to know the fact that you're the only one getting in your way, right? You wake up, you go through your day-to-day existence, you have these dreams that you want to accomplish, but you keep getting in your own way. You keep getting stuck in negative thought patterns. You keep thinking about doing things without actually doing them. All these different factors combine to you being in a place where you don't want to be, you being in a place where you logically understand a lot of the things that you know you need to be doing, but you're not doing them. And you just have all of this extra weight that you pile on top of whatever it is you're trying to do or accomplish, right? So if you look at yourself sitting at the bottom of a mountain, getting ready to climb, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to climb if you have a backpack full of dumbbells and heavy weights that are holding you back, right? So we have a lot of thoughts that are this way. We have a lot of behaviors and belief systems that act as that weight. And if you actually just removed all that stuff, easy to say, difficult to do, but if you remove some of that stuff, you'd be left with you. And that's kind of the cliche about it that's really true, kind of the corny, self-helpy thing to say, but you already have everything that you need to be successful. You're already smart enough. You already have enough level of talent. You already have enough motivation and discipline baked in there, but there's just so much getting in your way. So I'm going to talk about a few things that you do, a few things that you might be doing that are getting in your way, and encourage you to let go of some of those things so you can start having the results you want. So one thing that gets in a lot of people's way is this idea that you wish that things were somehow different than they are at this very second, right? So whenever you get into circumstances you don't want, something bad happens to you, or maybe your day-to-day life isn't where you want it to be. Your job and your career and your financial situation is not where it wants to be, or is not where you want it to be. The way that you live your life on a day-to-day basis isn't the way you want it to be. You've made mistakes in your life that have put you in a position maybe where you feel like you're in a hole, right? So we make mistakes and then we compound those mistakes by, instead of like looking objectively at what went wrong and just figuring out the next steps, we just go through these ruts and we wallow and wallow and wallow. And we think about how our life would have been had we done X, Y, and Z. We think about how much we don't want to be in the current reality that we're in. So we either get caught daydreaming about this future that's not going to happen because we're never taking action in the present moment, or we just keep going over the past, and you can't change the past no matter how much you try. Excuse me, a little burp there. No matter how much you try, you can't change the past. So why do we spend so much time going back and forth instead of just facing the current reality? Well, because facing your current reality isn't a lot of fun if you're not in the current reality that you want to be in. It's not fun to be gridlocked, stuck in the present moment, and then actually having to face those steps that you need to do to get what you need to get done, right? It's better to kind of cope either in the future, in the past, and wish things that were different than they are now, than to actually do what it takes to change. And the one thing, there's no special magic recipe that I'm going to be able to give you to stop you from doing that, but other than to tell you that it's completely useless. Wishing you had a different life than you have right at this very moment, it's useless. Visualizing a better future, that's good. Thinking about the steps you can take so that you can actually take them, that's good. And even going back, it is useful to look at some of the things you've done in the past and analyze them so that you can course correct and not have those same mistakes in the future. But wishing your life was any different than it is right now is totally useless. A lot of the things that get in your way are basically thoughts that you use to kind of cope and mentally masturbate, but actually don't do anything for you. So stop wishing things were different than they are now. You have to be you. You have to live your life in the present moment, and you're never going to escape that present moment reality if you continue to wallow about the past or daydream about the future. The next thing that you do, we all do, that gets in the way of your own success that adds extra weight is speculation, thinking, right? No amount of thinking about doing something is going to help you actually do it. Like you need to plan for things, right? You need to do your research, your due diligence. You need to kind of map out what you need to do beforehand to execute on certain goals, projects, initiatives, or different things like that, right? But there's no substitute for the actual act itself. And we get into this trap that, when we hesitate on doing something, we think that if we just think and think and think about it more, that it's going to make it easier. We think, it's kind of like, I forgot the analogy that I was going to say, but we think that recurring thoughts about what it would be like to do the thing is going to make it easier to do, but it's actually going to make it harder to do. The more you continue to think and think and think. How many people have been thinking about starting a business for decades of their life, but they never actually start it? Why? Because when you start a business, you're going to have to put yourself out there. When you start a business, you have the potential for people to reject you. When you start a business, you have the potential for you to put a product out there and nobody wants it. You have the potential for your ego to be bruised because you tried to start the business and it failed. So you think and think and think. And what you're doing is you're trying to think your way into it's not going to work logically, but you kind of try to think your way into this scheme where you somehow do something that you want to do, but you don't get hurt, you don't get rejected, you don't get embarrassed, you don't fail, you don't fall flat on your face. You're trying to maneuver this technique to somehow avoid the inevitable negative emotions that you'll feel, obstacles that you'll feel along the way of trying to accomplish something. So, thinking primarily is a hesitation. It's a mechanism for hesitation. No matter how much you try to tell yourself that you're just someone who likes to plan, someone who wants to get things right, I'm a perfectionist. No, you're not a perfectionist. You're scared. You're not a perfectionist. You're scared of what it would feel like to do the things you really want to do and put yourself out there. So you hide behind your planning. You hide behind your thinking. You hide behind this fake notion that you need to be extremely informed to get things done, right? A lot of businesses, going back to that, a lot of businesses did not start out with grand, meticulous plans. A lot of these businesses started out as experiments. A lot of these businesses started out going out and trying to do something. I remember I used to watch Shark Tank back in the day, and I read the story about Damon John, who started FUBU. Did he map out this big, elaborate chain of FUBU factories and to become a global brand before he started? Nope. He had a initial run of t-shirts, and he went out on the street and tried to sell some people some t-shirts. That's how he started the business. He took a small handful of t-shirts, saw if he could sell them to people on the street, and then built up from there. He didn't have these big grandiose plans. When I started writing, I didn't have some big grandiose plan of how I was going to accomplish all of this. I just started writing. And I have a lot of writers who come up to me. They ask me these questions, these vague questions that I can't possibly answer in full, that they use as a coping mechanism to get started. They're like, oh, how do I build a writing career? Gee, aspiring writer, yeah, I could tell you everything you need to know about building a writing career in a single email. 5-6 years of work I put in, I can describe that to you in a single email, and that's going to be the magical spark that you need to get started. BS. They know it's BS. I know it's BS. We both know it's just a waste of time that they're using to hide. So no amount of continual thinking is going to help you get closer to the result. You can only think up to a point. You can only get the basic map of what you need to do to get started, and then you have to just. And then the last thing we do to kind of get in our own way, that kind of coincides with both. You'll notice like a lot of overlap between these things. Is, we avoid confronting the reality of who we really are in the present moment, right? So I have this saying, this idea called Potentialville, right? We like to live in Potentialville, and we like to imagine ourselves as this idealized version, right? I've talked about this in previous videos. I'm really layering a lot of different concepts in these series of videos I'm doing lately, But we have this idealized image of ourselves, how we'd like to be. And it's fun to really kind of mentally masturbate to that image of that person, right? But we don't want to confront that, like, who we are right now as currently constructed is not that person. We don't want to confront who we are right now, right? You don't want to confront that you are a lazy and unmotivated person right now. You don't want to confront the fact that you are cowardly and timid in many ways right now. You don't want to confront the fact that you are full of doubts right now. You want to pretend that maybe someday, somehow, you're going to become this new person when you're not willing to do the groundwork to come up from where you are now. So it's better to realize that you can change anything about yourself that you want, but it's never going to happen until you look at yourself as objectively and honestly as you possibly can. Look at yourself and focus on where your strengths are, and do understand where your weaknesses are. Don't lie to yourself about who you are right now, right? So back in the day, I used to tell myself, oh, eventually I'd be this hotshot business owner, but looked up, I was broke, I was lazy, I was working at a crappy job. I had to face who I was then so that I could change. So these are all overlapping concepts, but you have to get rid of this idea that it's a weird paradox. Like, on the one hand, you want to develop confidence in yourself and tell yourself that you're capable of doing things in the future, but then you don't want to get into the trap of telling yourself this story that you're somehow better than you actually are, because that keeps you from doing the work that you need to do to improve. So you have to wrestle with your own insecurities in the present moment and admit the things that you're insecure about, admit the things that you need to work on so that you can work on them. That's basically the gist of all of it. All these things I've been talking about just layer on top of each other. And the ultimate thing to realize is just continually, you are the one getting in your own way. There's nothing going on outside of the shit that's going on in your head that's blocking you from getting what you want. And then a lot of this is just a process of removal. It's a process of letting go. And it's really hard to let go because you want to cling to that kind of steering wheel of your life to think you have control. But it's better to have a little bit less control. Stop trying to make everything so difficult so that you can actually go the direction you want, as opposed to gripping super hard and coping by using all of these useless thought mechanisms that get you in a direction that you don't want to go. Okay, Real Help, An Honest Guide to Self-Improvement. This is a book that'll help you get where you need to go. So make sure to check that out. It'll be in a link somewhere near the video I posted. Thank you so much for watching this video. Had a blast doing it. Going to start creating a lot more consistently so the videos continue to get better. I will see you on the next video.